Hello, I'm Ambassador Ken Quinn, Strategic Advisor to the U.S. Heartland China Association. And as we hold this 2022 Agricultural Roundtable with the theme New Year, New Opportunities, we do so with the world suddenly thrown into upheaval by the terrible scenes of military clashes in Ukraine and the awful destruction and human suffering is taking place there. And in a way of looking to try to find possible solutions to end those hostilities, I believe that history can find and provide us with significant lessons of how peace can be obtained through agriculture. I'm speaking to you from Des Moines, Iowa, and behind me, you see the image of the Governor Robert D. Ray Asian garden with this beautiful pagoda, which reflects the connection that the U.S. and China have had through agriculture. Situated on the Des Moines River, just a couple of 100 meters to the north is the place where the first event was held for Governor Shi Jung-sun in 1980. He was the governor then of Guangdong province and led a Chinese delegation to the U.S. to Iowa to learn about agriculture. And he, of course, is the father of President Xi Jinping. A few hundred meters to the south of the Robert D. Ray Asian Garden Pagoda is the World Food Prize Hall of Laureates, where for 2 decades, I served as president of the World Food Prize, and where we honored our laureate, Professor Yunlong Ping, perhaps China's greatest agricultural scientist, and also hosted the visit in 2012 of then Vice President Xi Jinping. You know, the President Xi Jinping, as a young man, 31 years old, came to the United States and came to Iowa in 1985 and was befriended by families in Muscatine, Iowa. And he returned in 2012, just a decade ago, for this wonderful sentimental reunion. And he went to Muscatine, to the home of Sarah Landy, who was one of the hosts for him in 1985, then came to Des Moines for a state dinner hosted by then Governor Terry Branstad, later Ambassador Branstad, and on the 16th came to that building, to my building, the World Food Prize Dr. Norman Borlaug Hall of Laureates for the U.S.-China High-Level Symposium. And he delivered the keynote address there. And later that day, Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack, the former governor of Iowa, signed a memorandum of strategic cooperation in agriculture with Chinese Minister Han Chan-fu. And in that same building, there were contracts signed for $3.5 billion in the export of soybeans from the American heartland, from this 20-state region in the middle of America, to China. It was a high point in the China-U.S. relationship of the more than 4 decades we've had diplomatic relations between our two countries. But now, with this terrible fighting, we look, where can we find the inspiration? Can we find it in looking at the legacy of Dr. Norman Borlaug, America's greatest agricultural scientist, whose birth anniversary comes in just a few days on March 25th, and who was the father of the Green Revolution and who promoted enhanced opportunities, particularly in developing countries, for greater production of wheat. Now, in the World Food Prize Hall of Laureates in the Iowa Gallery, there's a painting that reflects on the most dangerous moment of human history in 1959, when US and Soviet missiles, nuclear missiles were poised to be fired at each other. And Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev came to Iowa at the invitation of a farmer named Roswell Garst. And as the painting I commissioned shows, there's Khrushchev and Garst, the corn crib, looking at an ear of corn, and Khrushchev saying, "Why can't I have corn like this in the Soviet Union?" And Garst sent his nephew over the next 2 decades back and forth to Russia and to the Soviet Union, to Ukraine, talking about how lessons of American agriculture could help agricultural production in the Soviet Union. While they never talked about nuclear weapons, that spirit of cooperation was able to maintain an atmosphere so those weapons were never, ever fired. And we need that kind of inspiration again now to help diffuse that terrible fighting going on and end it in the Ukraine, because as I know from speaking at the International Wheat Congress in St. Petersburg, Russia in 2010, 60% of all the wheat in the world comes from Russia and the Ukraine. And we cannot afford another food shortages and food price crisis that disrupt the world because we face the single greatest challenge human beings have ever confronted. Can we sustainably produce enough nutritious food to feed the 9 to 10 billion people who will be on our planet by the year 2049? And we have to do so while also dealing with the challenges of climate change and climate volatility, and at the same time preventing pandemics of human, animal, and plant disease. It's a big job. And to be successful, it will take America and China working together. We need something positive in this relationship. I hope that President Xi and President Biden will be inspired by all that takes place at this terrific agricultural roundtable over the next several weeks, and that they will agree to, above all the other differences we may have, lay out a way that we can cooperate and work together and uplift Africa and ensure that hunger ends there. And working with another individual with an Iowa connection, World Food Prize laureate Dr. Akinwumi Adesina and the African Development Bank, with whom I've been working lately in an effort to promote their $1 billion for 200 million people lifted out of hunger and poverty. That would be a great goal, and we need to attain what was Dr. Borlaug's and my own life work, achieving peace through agriculture. I hope you find our symposium and our agricultural roundtable to be inspiring to you in this endeavor.